You wake up with a jolt, your face pressed into cold, damp earth. The air smells of rice paddies, wood smoke, and something faintly metallic, blood. Perhaps your phone, your lifeline to the modern world, is gone. Your sneakers are caked in mud, and your jeans feel absurdly out of place as you stagger to your feet, squinting at a landscape that's both alien and eerily familiar. Rolling hills stretch before you, dotted with thatched roof huts and workers bent over in fields. In the distance, a city looms, its walls towering and topped with curved roofs. You're not in Kansas anymore, or wherever you call home. This is Imperial China, specifically the Tang Dynasty, around 750 CE, and you, dear modern soul, are woefully unprepared. The first reason you wouldn't last a day, the sheer culture shock, your 21st century sensibilities, your reliance on technology, your assumptions about individual rights, your casual disregard for hierarchy, are about to collide head-on with a world where survival demands absolute conformity to rigid social norms. You don't speak the language, you don't know the customs, and you're about to learn that standing out is the fastest way to a very bad day. You stumble toward a dirt path, your stomach growling. Back home, you'd grab a coffee and a bagel, or order something off an app. Here, there's no Uber Eats, no grocery stores, no refrigeration. Big food is scarce, and what's available is nothing like your kale smoothies or fast food burgers. You spot a farmer chewing on a steamed bun, and your mouth waters. You approach, trying to mime hunger, pointing at your stomach. The farmer, a wiry man with a conical hat, stares at you like you're a demon. Your jeans, your sneakers, your very posture scream outsider. He mutters something in a language you don't understand, Middle Chinese, you'll later learn, and backs away, clutching his bun like it's gold. Language is your first barrier. You try English, maybe some broken Mandarin from a high school class, but this is not modern Mandarin. Tang Dynasty's language is a melodic, tonal beast, full of nuances you can't grasp. You gesture wildly, hoping to convey friendliness, but the farmer's eyes narrow. He shouts, and soon a small crowd gathers, men in loose robes, women with hair pinned in intricate buns. They point at your clothes, whispering, "You're a spectacle, and not the good kind." In Imperial China, clothing signals status, and your outfit marks you as a barbarian at best, a spy at worst. You try to explain yourself, but your words are gibberish. The crowd's mood shifts from curiosity to suspicion. Someone calls for the local magistrate. You don't know what a magistrate is yet, but you'll soon learn they're the law enforcement, judge, and jury rolled into one. A man in a flowing silk robe arrives, flanked by two soldiers with spears. You're starting to sweat. Back home, you'd demand a lawyer or at least a phone call. Here, there's no such thing as rights. The magistrate barks questions, and you catch only the tone sharp, accusing. You try to smile, but that's a mistake. Smiling at authority in this context is disrespectful, and the magistrate's face hardens. Before you know it, you're being marched toward the city, hands bound with rough hemp rope. The crowd follows, murmuring about foreign devils and omens. You're not just lost, you're a walking violation of social order. In the Tang Dynasty, society is a pyramid, the emperor at the top, nobles and officials below, peasants at the bottom. You're outside the pyramid entirely, a dangerous anomaly. The Chinese value harmony, and your chaos incarnate. The city gates loom ahead, massive wooden structures reinforced with iron. Chang'an, the capital, is a marvel. Sprawling markets, temples with golden statues, streets bustling with merchants and monks. But you're not here to sightsee. You're dragged to a holding cell, a dank room with straw on the floor and a bucket in the corner. The smell is overwhelming. You try to protest, but a soldier shoves you, and you fall hard. Pain shoots through your knees. You're used to a world where authority can be questioned, where you have a voice. Here, questioning authority is a one-way ticket to punishment. As you sit in the cell, you realize how deeply you've underestimated this world. You assumed you could figure it out, like you do with a new app or a tricky work project. But Imperial China doesn't care about your problem-solving skills. The survival here requires knowing the unspoken rules. Rules about bowing, about addressing superiors, about blending in. You don't know any of them. Your clothes, your speech, your very existence are offenses. And then there's the small matter of your empty stomach. You haven't eaten in hours, and the thought of food is now a distant dream. You're not sure what's worse, the hunger, the fear, or the realization that you're utterly alone. The magistrate returns, holding a bamboo scroll. He unrolls it, reading something in a monotone. You catch the word execution in translation. Your imagination fills in the rest. In the Tang Dynasty, punishments are swift and brutal. Flogging, exile, or worse. You're not a citizen, not even a recognized person. You're a threat to the cosmic order, and the system has no patience for threats. As the magistrate gestures for the guards to take you, you wonder if you'll even make it to nightfall. This is just the beginning. If you somehow escape this mess, you'll face more challenges: disease, starvation, bandits, and a society that demands absolute obedience. Imperial China is a world of beauty and brutality, and you, with your modern mindset, are a fish out of water. The sun sets outside your cell, casting long shadows through the bars. You're starting to understand. You wouldn't last a day. The cell door creaks open, and for a fleeting moment, you think you're saved. A young man, barely older than you, stands there, dressed in a plain robe that marks him as a low-ranking clerk. His eyes dart nervously, and he whispers something urgent in Middle Chinese. You don't understand the words, but his gestures beckoning you to follow, finger to his lips, suggest he's risking something to free you. Maybe it's pity for the strange foreigner, or maybe he's got his own agenda. Either way, you're not about to argue. You scramble to your feet, ignoring the ache in your knees, and slip out into the cool night air of Chang'an. The second reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China: the tyranny of etiquette. In the Tang Dynasty, every interaction is a minefield of rituals, gestures, and unspoken rules rooted in Confucian ideals of harmony and hierarchy. Your modern habits, casual speech, direct eye contact, a tendency to question authority, are not just quirks here. They're offenses that can get you ostracized, beaten, or worse. You're about to learn this the hard way. Your rescuer, whom you mentally dub Clerk Guy, leads you through narrow alleys, past shuttered shops and flickering lanterns. The city is quieter at night, but not silent. Street vendors hawk late-night dumplings, and drunken poets recite verses to the moon. You're still in your jeans and sneakers, which draw stares from the few people you pass. Clerk Guy hisses at you to keep your head down, and you try to mimic his hunched posture. You're grateful for the escape, but your stomach is a knot of hunger, and your mind races with questions you can't ask. Who is this guy? Why is he helping you? And where are you going? He stops at a modest wooden house, its courtyard lit by a single lantern. Inside, an older man with a wispy beard sits at a low table, sipping tea. Clerk Guy bows deeply, his forehead nearly touching the floor, and says something in a deferential tone. The older man, probably a minor official, judging by his finer robe, glances at you, his expression unreadable. You're unsure what to do, so you offer a weak wave and a hi. Big mistake. The official's eyes narrow, and Clerk Guy winces.
You've just committed your first etiquette blunder, failing to bow. In the Tang dynasty, bowing is not optional. It's a physical manifestation of respect, calibrated to the recipient's status. Your shallow nod might suffice for a peer, but a superior demands a deep bow, sometimes even kowtowing, kneeling and pressing your forehead to the ground. You, a stranger in bizarre clothing, should have gone straight to kowtowing. Your casual wave, a friendly gesture in your world, is an insult here, implying you consider yourself equal to or above the official. Clerk guy scrambles to explain, gesturing at you like you're a curious but defective pet. The official grunts, motioning for you to sit.
You'll plop down on a cushion, legs crossed. Another misstep. The proper posture is knees folded under, back straight. Your slouch screams disrespect, and the official's frown deepens. Clerk guy, clearly regretting his decision to help, whispers something to you. Probably behave, but you're too overwhelmed to guess. The official begins speaking, his tone clipped. Clerk guy translates haltingly, using gestures. The official is willing to shelter you, but only if you prove useful. You nod eagerly, thinking this is your chance to blend in. But blending in requires mastering a social code you don't even know exists. The next morning, you're given a task. Deliver a sealed scroll to a noble in the city's western quarter. It sounds simple, but nothing in Imperial China is. Clerk guy hands you a borrowed robe, itchy, hemp-spun, and slightly too short, and tries to drill you on basics. Bow to anyone in silk. Don't speak unless spoken to. Never look a superior in the eye. You nod, thinking you've got it, but your confidence is a trap. Modern life has taught you to be assertive, to make eye contact, to be yourself. Here, yourself is a liability. The streets of Chang'an are a sensory overload. Merchants shouting, oxen pulling carts, the clatter of wooden sandals. You clutch the scroll, trying to look inconspicuous, but your sneakers peek out from under the robe, and your gait too upright, too hurried, draws step. You reach the noble's mansion, a sprawling compound with red lacquered gates. A servant ushers you in, and you're led to a hall where the noble, a stern man in shimmering silk, sits on a raised platform. You remember to bow, but it's too shallow, too late. The noble's eyebrows shoot up. You hand over the scroll, avoiding eye contact, but then you make another mistake. You speak first, stammering, "Here's the scroll, sir." Silence. The noble's face turns to stone. In Tang society, inferiors don't initiate conversation. You've just implied you're his equal. A grievous insult. The servant gasps, and the noble snaps his fingers. Guards appear, their spears glinting. You try to backpedal, babbling apologies, but your words are meaningless. The noble stands, his voice low but venomous. Clerk guy, who followed you, looks like he's about to faint. He later explains through frantic gestures that you've not only offended the noble but also embarrassed the official who sent you. In this world, shame ripples outward, staining everyone connected to you. The guards drag you to a courtyard, where a bamboo rod awaits. Flogging is a common punishment for minor offenses, and you're about to experience it firsthand. The first strike stings like fire, and you yelp, which only makes the guards laugh. Modern notions of cruel and unusual punishment don't exist here. Pain is a teacher, and you're the student, As the blows land, you realize how deeply you've underestimated this society. Every gesture, every word, is a performance of submission. Your casual, egalitarian instincts are not just useless, they're dangerous. Clerk guy intervenes, pleading with the noble, likely promising to take responsibility for you. The flogging stops, but you're bruised and humiliated. The noble dismisses you with a wave, and you're escorted out, limping. Clerk guy hisses that you're lucky to be alive. Insulting a noble could have meant exile or death. You're starting to see the pattern. Imperial China is a world of invisible rules.
And ignorance is no excuse, unlike, say, medieval Europe, where a foreigner might blunder through with charm or coin. The Tang dynasty's obsession with order leaves no room for error. Even ancient Rome, with its chaotic cosmopolitanism, might have given you a chance to talk your way out. Here, words are traps, and silence is safe. Back at the official's house, you're given a new task. Serve tea at a gathering of scholars. It's a chance to redeem yourself, but you're terrified. Pouring tea isn't just pouring tea. It's a ritual, with precise movements and timing. One wrong move, and you'll offend again. As you practice under clerk Guy's exasperated gaze, you wonder if you'll ever learn to navigate this world. The sun climbs higher, and the gathering approaches. You're not ready, but you have no choice. In Imperial China, etiquette isn't just manners, it's survival.
Your back stings from the flogging. Each bruise a throbbing reminder of your failure to navigate the Tang dynasty's suffocating etiquette. You're back at the official's house, sprawled on a straw mat, trying to process the fact that a simple misstep, pouring tea too quickly, nearly got you killed. The clerk guy, whose name you've learned is Lai Wei, hovers nearby, muttering about your barbarian clumsiness. You're too exhausted to argue, but your body has a new problem. A small cut on your hand, earned during your escape from the cell, is starting to swell. It's red, hot, and tender, and you're starting to feel feverish. Back home, you'd pop an antibiotic or visit a clinic. Here, in Imperial China, you're about to discover the third reason you wouldn't last a day. Disease is a silent, relentless killer, and your modern immune system is no match for it. The Tang dynasty is a golden age of poetry and trade, but it's also a petri dish of pathogens. Without sanitation, antibiotics, or even a basic understanding of germs, infections spread like wildfire. Smallpox scars pockmark faces in the marketplace, dysentery fells entire villages, and tuberculosis lurks in crowded cities like Chang'an. You, with your 21st century body, have never faced these diseases unvaccinated. That tiny cut on your hand, barely a scratch in your world, is now a gateway for bacteria you can't fight. You show the cut to Lai Wei, hoping for sympathy or advice. He grimaces, not out of concern but disgust, and drags you to a local healer, a wiry old woman with a stall in the market. Her table is cluttered with herbs, dried roots, and jars of mysterious pastes. The air smells of ginseng and something acrid, like burnt hair. She examines your hand, muttering about evil humors and imbalanced chai. You try to explain that you need something to clean the wound, maybe alcohol or iodine, but the words don't exist here. Lai Wei translates your babbling as best he can, but the healer shakes her head. In the Tang dynasty, medicine is a blend of herbal remedies, acupuncture, and mysticism, guided by theories of yin-yang balance rather than germ theory. Your insistence on cleaning the wound sounds like nonsense to her. She hands you a foul-smelling poultice, ground herbs mixed with what looks like mud, and instructs you to smear it on the cut. You hesitate, knowing from high school biology that dirt breeds infection, but Lai Wei's glare forces your hand. You apply the poultice, wincing as it stings. The healer also gives you a bitter tea to drink, claiming it will expel the heat from your body. You choke it down, hoping it's not poisonous. Spoiler, it's not, but it doesn't help either. By evening, your hand is worse, swollen to twice its size, oozing pus. Your fever spikes, and you're shivering despite the warm night air. Lai Wei, clearly worried about losing his investment in you, drags you back to the healer. This time, she calls in a colleague, a monk-like figure who claims to be a master of acupuncture. He studies your hand, then pulls out a set of long, thin needles. You're too weak to protest as he jabs them into your arm, claiming to redirect your chart. The pain is sharp, and you're pretty sure he's just poking nerves at random. Modern medicine, with its sterile tools and evidence-based protocols,
feels like a distant dream. Here, healers rely on tradition and intuition, and while some remedies like willow bark for pain work, most are guesswork. Your infection, likely staphylococcus, or worse, doesn't care about you. As the night wears on, you slip in and out of delirium. You dream of hospitals, clean sheets, and IV drips, but wake to the reality of a straw mat and a bucket for a toilet. Sanitation is another killer. The official's house, modest but clean by Tang standards, has no running water, no soap, no concept of hygiene as you know it. People wash their hands in shared basins, if at all, and latrines are open pits that breed flies. You realize, with a sinking feeling, that your infection could have come from the cell, the market, or even the water you drank. In your world, a cut is a minor inconvenience. Here, it's a death sentence. Lai Wei, desperate to save you or at least his reputation, seeks out a more expensive physician, one who serves the city's elite. The physician, a pompous man in silk robes, charges a fortune paid by the official, who's growing tired of your uselessness.
He examines you with a mix of curiosity and disdain, noting your pale skin and strange clothes. He prescribes a concoction of mercury and sulfur, claiming it will purge the poison. You're too weak to argue, but you know enough to dread mercury poisoning. In the Tang dynasty, heavy metals are common in medicine, often doing more harm than good. To Kibris, the dose, earning a scowl from the physician and a lecture from Li Wei about disrespecting authority. Your fever breaks the next morning, but not because of the healer's poultice or the monk's needles. It's likely sheer luck, your body's last-ditch effort to fight off the infection, but you're far from safe. The physician warns that smallpox is spreading in the city, carried by traders along the Silk Road. You've never been vaccinated for it, and the telltale rash is appearing on people in the market. If you catch it, you're done for. Smallpox kills up to a third of its victims, and survivors are often scarred or blinded. Even if you dodge smallpox, dysentery from contaminated water or tuberculosis from crowded streets could claim you next. You compare this to other eras in your fevered thoughts. In ancient Rome, you might have faced similar diseases, but their bathhouses and aqueducts offered some hygiene. Medieval Europe was a cesspool, but at least you'd have a chance at herbal monasteries. The Tang dynasty, for all its sophistication, combines urban density with primitive sanitation, making it a uniquely deadly trap for your unvaccinated, unaccustomed body. You're starting to see why no one here lives past 50 without luck or wealth. Li Wei, now your reluctant caretaker, decides you're too much trouble to keep in the official's house. He plans to smuggle you out of Chang'an to a rural village, where you might avoid disease and scrutiny, but the journey will be treacherous, and your weakened state makes you a liability. As you pack a small bundle, your ruined sneakers, a borrowed robe, and a few steamed buns, you feel the weight of your fragility. The cut on your hand is still angry, a reminder that every scratch, every sip of water, every breath in this city could be your last. The road out of Chang'an stretches ahead, dusty and unforgiving. Li Wei walks briskly, urging you to keep up. You're alive, for now, but the specter of disease looms larger than ever. In Imperial China, survival isn't just about dodging spears or mastering etiquette. It's about outrunning the invisible killers that lurk in every wound, every cup, every crowded street. You're not built for this world, and it's only a matter of time before it proves it. Your legs ache as you trudge behind Li Wei, the dust of the road outside Chang'an coating your borrowed robe. The cut on your hand still throbs, but the fever has subsided, leaving you weak but alive. You're grateful for Li Wei's decision to smuggle you out of the city, away from the smallpox-ridden markets, and the officials' growing impatience. But gratitude doesn't fill your stomach, which has been growling for hours. The few steamed buns Li Wei gave you are long gone, and the memory of their bland, chewy texture taunts you. You're about to discover the fourth reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China. Food is a privilege, not a guarantee,
and your modern reliance on easy calories leaves you utterly unprepared for the hunger game of the Tang Dynasty. In your world, food is a tap away. Delivery apps, grocery stores, fast food drive-thrus. Even in tough times, a vending machine or a friend's fridge is within reach. Here, in 750 CE, food is a daily struggle, tied to labor, status, and survival skills you don't have. The Tang Dynasty is prosperous, with rice paddies and millet fields feeding millions, but abundance is for the elite. Peasants toil for every grain, and outsiders like you're at the bottom of the food chain, literally and figuratively. The way leads you toward a rural village, a cluster of thatched huts nestled between rice fields. He's hoping to dump you with a distant cousin, a farmer who might take you in as a laborer. You're too weak to argue, but the thought of manual labor terrifies you. Your hands are soft, your muscles untested by anything beyond a gym treadmill. The village comes into view, and you're struck by its simplicity. No electricity, no stores, just fields and a communal well. The air smells of wet earth and manure, and your stomach lurches, not from disgust, but hunger. Wei introduces you to his cousin, a weathered man named Jiang Fu, whose face is etched with lines from a lifetime of sun and toil.
Jiang Fu eyes you skeptically, noting your pale skin and useless sneakers. Li Wei explains that you're a distant traveler who needs work. Jiang Fu grunts, agreeing to feed you if you help with the harvest. You nod eagerly, thinking it can't be that hard. You're wrong. The next morning, you're handed a sickle and pointed toward a rice paddy. The field is a sea of green stalks, heavy with grain, but harvesting is back-breaking work. You watch the other laborers, men and women with calloused hands, slice through stalks with practiced ease. You try to mimic them, but your cuts are clumsy, and you nick your finger within minutes. The pain is sharp, and you're reminded of the infection that nearly killed you. You drop the sickle, earning a shout from Jiang Fu. In the Tang Dynasty, food isn't just grown, it's earned through sweat and skill, and you have neither. By midday, your back screams, and your hands are blistered. The other laborers eat a simple meal of millet porridge and pickled vegetables, but you're given a smaller portion. Jiang Fu says you haven't earned more. You scarf it down, the bland gruel barely denting your hunger. Back home, you'd complain about a stale sandwich. Here, this is a feast, and it's not enough. You try to ask for more, but Jiang Fu's glare silences you. Food is rationed tightly, and waste is a sin. Stealing is worse. Li Wei warned you that thieves lose hands or lives. Desperate, you start eyeing the fields, wondering if you could sneak a handful of raw rice. It's a bad idea, but hunger clouds your judgment. You wait until dusk, when the laborers are resting, and creep to the edge of the paddy. You grab a few stalks, stuffing the grains into your mouth. They're hard, unprocessed, and taste like dirt, but you're too hungry to care. Then you hear a shout. A young boy, one of Jiang Fu's sons, has spotted you. He runs off, and soon Jiang Fu is charging towards you, his face red with fury. Stealing food, even a handful, is a betrayal of trust in this community. You try to explain, but your broken attempts at Middle Chinese only make things worse. Jiang Fu drags you to the village elder, a stern woman with a voice like gravel. She listens to his accusations, then turns to you. You're expected to defend yourself, but you don't know the protocol. Another etiquette blunder. In the Tang Dynasty, villages operate on collective survival, and stealing undermines the group. The elder sentences you to a day without food as punishment, plus extra labor to repay the stolen rice. You're lucky it's not worse. Li Wei whispers that in lean years, thieves are exiled or executed to deter others. The next day, you're back in the fields, hungrier than ever. Your vision blurs, and your arms tremble as you swing the sickle. The other laborers keep their distance, wary of the barbarian who steals. You realize that food here isn't just sustenance, it's currency, status, and survive. Without land, skills, or connections, you're at the mercy of others' charity.
and charity is scarce. Even the Tang's famous granaries, built to store surplus grain, are for the elite or disaster relief, not for strangers like you. You compare this to other eras in your hunger-fogged mind. In ancient Rome, you might have begged for bread from a patron or scavenged in markets. Medieval Europe had monasteries that fed the poor, however grudgingly. But in the Tang dynasty, the Confucian emphasis on family and community leaves little room for outsiders. Without a clan or a trade, you're invisible, and the invisible don't. The Silk Road brings exotic spices to the elite, but for you, it's millet or nothing. Li Wei, seeing your deteriorating state, takes pity and sneaks you a steamed bun. It's a small act of kindness, but it comes with a warning. Zhang Fu is losing patience, and the village won't tolerate a useless mouth. You need to prove your worth, but your body is failing you. As you choke down the bun, you notice a commotion at the village edge. Bandits have been spotted nearby, raiding travelers and fields. Li Wei's face pale. If bandits attack, the village's meager stores will be targeted, and you'll be even less likely to eat. The sun sets, casting long shadows over the fields. You're exhausted, hungry, and starting to understand the brutal math of survival. Food is life, and you have no way to earn it, grow it, or steal it without consequences.
Lê Shui mentions the next leg of your journey, a trek to another village, where you might find work. But the road is dangerous, and your hunger makes you weak. In Imperial China, starvation isn't just a risk, it's a shadow that follows you, waiting for one misstep to claim you. The road to the next village is a blur of dust and exhaustion. Your stomach gnaws at itself. The single steamed bun from Lê Shui, barely a memory. The blisters on your hands throb from your brief stint as a rice farmer, and every step feels like a gamble against collapse. Lê Shui walks ahead, his pace brisk despite the bandit rumors swirling around the village you left behind. You're still reeling from your punishment for stealing rice, a day without food and the scorn of Zhang Fu's family. But hunger is no longer your only problem. You're about to discover the fifth reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China. The legal system is a labyrinth of fear, where innocence is a foreign concept, and punishment is a public spectacle. The Tang dynasty's legal code, rooted in Confucian principles and imperial authority, is designed to maintain order, not fairness. There's no presumption of innocence, no right to a lawyer, no appeal process as you know it. Magistrates wield near absolute power, and their word is law. You, a stranger with no status or clan, are less than nothing in this system, a potential threat to be neutralized. Your modern belief in due process is about to be crushed under the weight of Tang justice. You and Lê Shui reach the new village by dusk, a smaller settlement than the last, with mud brick houses and a single watchtower. Lê Shui hopes to find you work here, maybe as a porter, but your arrival doesn't go unnoticed. A group of villagers gathers, staring at your tattered robe and filthy sneakers. You're still an outsider, and your brief time in the last village taught you that outsiders are suspect. Lê Shui speaks to the village headman, a stout man with a permanent scowl, explaining that you're a traveler seeking labor. The headman's eyes linger on you, and you sense trouble brewing. Trouble arrives faster than you expect. That night, as you huddle in a borrowed shed, a commotion erupts outside. Shouts, the clatter of hooves, and the flicker of torches light up the darkness. Lê Shui bursts in, his face pale. Bandits, he whispers, pulling you to your feet. The village is under attack, and the headman's watchtower has spotted raiders looting the granary. You're barely processing this when armed men, villagers with spears and pitchforks, storm the shed, dragging you out. They're shouting, pointing at you, and you catch one word: spy. It turns out the bandits hit the village shortly after your arrival, and to the villagers, that's no coincidence. Your strange appearance and inability to speak properly make you the perfect scapegoat. Lê Shui tries to defend you, but his voice is drowned out by the mob's anger. You're hauled before the headman,
who doubles as the local magistrate in this small village. He sits on a wooden stool, flanked by two grim-faced guards. The granary's loss is a disaster. Without that grain, the village faces starvation. Someone must be blamed, and you're the easiest target. You try to explain, gesturing wildly, but your broken attempts at communication only deepen the suspicion. In your world, you demand a trial, evidence, a chance to speak. Here, the legal system assumes guilt, especially for outsiders. The Tang Code, a sprawling set of laws, prescribes harsh penalties for crimes against the community, and aiding bandits, even unintentionally, can mean exile or execution. The headman interrogates you, his questions sharp and rapid. Literally translates as best he can, but you're floundering. You insist you're not a spy, but the concept of innocent until proven guilty doesn't exist. The burden is on you to prove your innocence, and you have nothing, no witnesses, no status, no alibi. The headman orders you bound and taken to a makeshift cell, a dirt-floored hut, with a single barred window. You're terrified, your mind racing with images of courtrooms and lawyers that don't exist here. The Tang legal system is efficient but brutal. Minor crimes like theft might earn you a flogging, but serious offenses like treason or banditry can lead to beheading or the lynching. Death by 1,000 cuts. You're not sure what's worse, the thought of pain or the realization that no one cares about your side of the story. The next morning, you're brought before the headman again, this time in a public square. The entire village has gathered, their faces a mix of anger and fear.
The headman reads from a bamboo scroll, listing your crimes, arriving suspiciously, failing to speak properly, and being present during the bandit attack. You try to protest, but a guard cuffs you, and the crowd jeers. Li Wei, looking defeated, whispers that he's trying to find a way to save you, but his influence is limited. The headman announces your punishment, a public flogging, followed by banishment. You're lucky it's not execution, but the word lucky feels hollow as you're tied to a wooden post. The first lash of the bamboo rod is like fire across your back. You scream, which only makes the crowd murmur in disapproval. Stoicism is expected, even from the guilty. The pain is unlike anything you've felt, each strike tearing through your already weakened body. You think of modern justice systems, flawed but at least offering a chance to be heard. In ancient Rome, you might have appealed to a patron or bribed an official. In medieval Europe, a priest might have intervened, citing mercy. But in the Tang dynasty, the law is a hammer, and you're the nail. The Confucian emphasis on collective harmony means individual rights are irrelevant, especially for a barbarian like you. The flogging ends, and you're untied, collapsing in the dirt. Li Wei helps you up, his face grim. Banishment means you're cast out with no food, no protection, and no hope of rejoining the village. The road ahead is bandit-infested, and your hunger and wounds make you an easy target. As the villagers disperse, you realize the legal system isn't just about punishment, it's about control. By making an example of you, the headman reinforces his authority, and the village's unity. You're a sacrifice to their survival. Li Wei, risking his own standing, decides to accompany you a little farther, hoping to find a monastery or another village where you might beg for mercy. He's quiet, clearly shaken by how quickly you were condemned. You're starting to understand the Tang dynasty's ruthless efficiency. The law doesn't care about truth, only order. Your modern notions of fairness are as useless as your sneakers, now falling apart from the rough terrain. As you limp away from the village, the weight of your situation settles in. Hunger, disease, and etiquette have nearly broken you, but the law has shown you just how expendable you are. The road stretches into the distance, and you hear the faint howl of a wolf. Or is it a band? Li Wei grips his staff tighter, and you clutch the tattered robe that's your only shield against this world. Survival in Imperial China means staying invisible, but you're a beacon of trouble, and the law is always watching. Your back is a map of pain,
each bruise from the village flogging pulsing with every step. The banishment from the village still stings worse than the wounds cast out like a stray dog, with only Liwei's reluctant company to keep you from complete despair. The road stretches endlessly before you, a rutted path winding through hills and forests, leading to a monastery where Liwei hopes you'll find refuge. Your stomach is empty, your hand's infection lingers, and your tattered sneakers are barely holding together. You're a walking wreck, and now you're about to face the sixth reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China. Travel is a gauntlet of death, where bandits, beasts, and the land itself conspire to crush the unprepared. In the Tang Dynasty, travel isn't a road trip with playlists and gas stations. It's a gamble against nature and human predator. The empire is vast, stretching from the Gobi Desert to the southern jungles, but its roads are little more than dirt tracks, often washed out by rains or blocked by fallen trees. Here are no maps, no GPS, no roadside inns with clean beds. Bandits roam the countryside, preying on travelers, while wolves and leopards stalk the forest. You, with no survival skills, no weapons, and no sense of direction, are as vulnerable as a newborn lamb. The first day on the road is deceptively calm. The autumn air is crisp, and the hills are painted with gold and red. Liwei carries a staff and a small bundle of supplies: millet cakes, a water gourd, and a flint for fire. You have nothing but the robe on your back, and a growing sense of dread. Your modern life never prepared you for this. You've hiked trails with marked paths and bottled water, but this is different. The path is uneven, studded with rocks that bruise your feet through your ruined sneakers. You're already limping, and it's only been a few hours.
By noon, hunger gnaws at you again, and Liwei shares a millet cake, but it's barely enough to quiet your stomach. You try to distract yourself by asking him about the monastery, but your broken attempts at Middle Chinese frustrate him. He points to the horizon, muttering about monks who might take pity on you. You're not sure if he's optimistic or just desperate to be rid of you. The road climbs a steep hill, and your legs burn. Back home, you'd call an Uber or at least check Google Maps. Here, you're at the mercy of Liwei's memory and the whims of the terrain. As the sun dips, you hear a rustle in the trees. Liwei freezes, gripping his staff. You think it's a deer, but then you see them, 3 men, their faces half covered with cloth, emerging from the forest. Bandits. Your heart races. In your world, you'd call 911 or run to a crowded street. Here, there's no help, no escape. The bandits are lean, hardened men, armed with short swords and clubs. Liwei steps forward, trying to negotiate, offering his bundle of supplies. You're useless, standing there with no weapon, no plan, and no courage to match the moment. The bandits aren't interested in talk. One lunges at Liwei, who swings his staff but misses. You try to run, but your weakened body betrays you, and you trip on a root. A bandit grabs you, his grip like iron, and you feel the cold edge of a blade against your throat. You scream, but it's pointless. There's no one to hear you. Liwei fights back, managing to knock one bandit down, but the other 2 overpower him. They tie you both with rough hemp rope, laughing as they rifle through Liwei's bundle. Your sneakers, now a curiosity, are yanked off your feet. The bandits debate keeping you for ransom, but your frail appearance convinces them you're not worth it. They leave you tied to a tree, taking everything: food, water, even Liwei's staff. You're barefoot now, your feet cut and bleeding from the rocky path. Liwei curses under his breath, working at the ropes with his teeth. You're too shaken to help, your mind spiraling. Bandits are a constant threat in the Tang Dynasty, especially on rural roads where Imperial patrols are scarce. The Empire's wealth flows through the Silk Road, but that wealth attracts predators. You're not a merchant with gold, just a liability, but that didn't save you from their wrath. After what feels like hours, Liwei frees himself and unties you. Night has fallen, and the forest is alive with sounds: hoots, howls, and the snap of twigs. You're freezing, your robe too thin for the autumn chill. Liwei's face is grim. Without supplies,
The journey to the monastery is now a death march. You try to keep up as he presses on, but your bare feet slow you down. Every step is agony, and you're starting to see why travel was rare for most Tang citizens. Peasants stay in their villages, bound by fear and necessity. Only the wealthy or desperate brave these roads, and you're neither. The next morning, you wake to a new threat, a storm. Rain pours, turning the path to mud. You slip and fall, your hand sinking into the mire. Li Wei pulls you up, but you're both soaked and shivering. The cold seeps into your bones, and you're reminded of your recent fever. Without shelter or dry clothes, hypothermia is a real risk. You think of other eras, medieval Europe's muddy roads, where pilgrims at least had cloaks and faith to sustain them, or ancient Rome's paved highways, patrolled by legion. The Tang dynasty's roads are vital to its empire, but they're death traps for the unprepared, and you're the poster child for unprepared. By the third day, you're starving, freezing, and barely coherent. Li Wei spots a cave and leads you inside, starting a weak fire with damp twigs. You huddle close, your teeth chattering. He shares the last of his water, but it's not enough. You're starting to hallucinate visions of pizza, hot showers, and your old life. The monastery is still days away, and you're not sure you'll make it. The land itself is an enemy, with its rivers that swell without warning, its forests that hide predators, and its roads that lead to nowhere. Li Wei, exhausted by your uselessness, finally snaps. He says you're slowing him down, risking his own life. He's right, but it stings.
You're a burden. A modern soul lost in a world that demands resilience you don't have. As the fire dies, you hear a low growl outside the cave, a wolf, drawn by your weakness. Li Wei grips a rock, his eyes wide. You realize that travel in Imperial China isn't just a journey, it's a test of survival, and you're failing miserably. The cave's damp chill clings to your skin as the wolf's growl fades into the night. Li Wei, clutching his rock, waits in tense silence until the beast moves on, leaving you both shaken but unharmed. You're barely alive, your body battered from the road, your feet bloodied from walking barefoot, and your stomach a hollow ache. The bandit attack stripped you of everything but Li Wei's dwindling loyalty, and the journey to the monastery feels like a fading hope. You're starting to understand the brutal truth of the Tang dynasty. Survival demands more than grit, it demands belonging, and you, a stranger in every sense, don't belong. Now, as you stumble toward the monastery, you're about to face the seventh reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China. The language barrier is a wall of isolation, turning every word into a potential catastrophe. In your modern world, language is a hurdle you can often sidestep. Apps translate, gestures bridge gaps, and English is a global crutch. Here, in 750 CE, you're drowning in Middle Chinese, a tonal, melodic language far removed from the Mandarin you might have half learned in a classroom. Its vocabulary, grammar, and inflections are alien, and your inability to speak it marks you as an outsider at best, a threat at worst. Every attempt to communicate risks misunderstanding, offense, or worse, and you're about to learn just how deadly words can be. The rain has stopped, and the dawn brings a faint hope. Li Wei spots smoke rising in the distance, a sign of the monastery. You limp along, your feet roar against the rocky path. The monastery's tiled roof gleams under the morning sun, a beacon of safety, or so you hope. As you approach, monks in saffron robes emerge, their shaved heads and calm demeanor a stark contrast to your ragged state. Li Wei bows deeply, speaking in rapid, respectful tones. You try to mimic his bow, but it's clumsy, and the monk's eyes narrow. You're a curiosity, but not a welcome one. Li Wei explains your situation. Fugitive, foreigner, useless, but his words are lost on you. The head monk, an older man with a face like weathered stone, gestures for you to follow him inside. The monastery is serene, with incense wafting through wooden halls and the soft chant of sutras echoing. You're given a bowl of thin rice gruel, which you devour despite its watery blandness. For a moment, you think you've found sanctuary, then the monk begins questioning you.
his voice slow but firm. Lu Wei translates haltingly. They want to know who you are, where you're from, and why you're here. You try to answer, piecing together fragments of modern Mandarin, but it's like trying to play a piano with mittens. Middle Chinese is tonal in ways that twist your tongue, and your pronunciation is a garbled mess. You say you're a traveler, but the word comes out sounding like spy or something worse. The monks exchange glances, and the head monk's expression hardens. You gesture frantically, pointing to yourself, to the sky, trying to mime, "I'm from far away." But gestures are as dangerous as words here. Pointing is rude, and your wild movements seem threatening. Lu Wei winces, trying to clarify, but he's struggling to keep up. The head monk switches tactics, asking you to write your name. Writing, you think, might be your salvation. Chinese characters transcend time. Right, wrong. The Tang dynasty uses classical Chinese, a dense, literary script far removed from the simplified characters you might know. You scribble what you think is your name, but the brush feels awkward in your hand, and the characters are barely legible. The monks study your writing, then murmur among themselves. Lu Wei whispers that your scroll looks like a child's, or worse, a deliberate insult. In this world, calligraphy is an art, a mark of education and status. Your sloppy attempt brands you as ignorant, possibly deceitful. The monks decide you're too strange to trust, but too weak to expel immediately. They assign you to the monastery's kitchen, a grueling job of hauling water and chopping wood. You're grateful for the shelter, but the work is relentless, and your inability to understand instructions makes it worse.
A younger monk barks orders, but his words are a jumble of turns. You can't pass. You try to mimic his actions, stirring a pot, stacking firewood, but you're always a step behind. When you accidentally spill a bucket of water, the monk shouts, and you catch the word fool. The other workers laugh, and you feel the weight of your isolation. Without language, you're not just useless, you're invisible. Days pass, and your attempts to learn Middle Chinese are futile. The language tones shift meaning in ways your ear can't catch. A word for help sounds like harm if you pitch it wrong. You try to ask for more food, but the monk thinks you're demanding his bowl, and he slaps your hand. You're not just failing to communicate, you're making enemies. Li Wei, who stayed to ensure you don't ruin his reputation further, grows frustrated. Then, he teaches you basic phrases, but your accent is a mockery, and the monks tire of your mistakes. The breaking point comes when you're sent to deliver a message to a nearby village. The head monk hands you a sealed scroll and points down the road. His instructions a rapid stream of syllables. You nod, pretending to understand, but you're lost. At the village, you hand the scroll to the wrong person, a merchant instead of the headman, and chaos erupts. The merchant, thinking it's a tax demand, accuses you of fraud. The headman, when he finally arrives, is furious at the mix-up. Your inability to explain yourself reignites suspicions of spying, and you're dragged back to the monastery under guard. The head monk interrogates you again, but this time, there's no patience. Your failure to deliver the message has embarrassed the monastery, and in the Tang dynasty, shame is a collective burden. Li Wei tries to intervene, but even he can't bridge the gap. The monks debate your fate, expulsion or worse. You think of other eras. In ancient Rome, Latin simplicity might have given you a chance to learn in medieval Europe. You could have relied on gestures or a shared faith, but Middle Chinese is a fortress, its tones and scripts locking you out. Without language, you can't explain, can't connect, can't survive. As the monks deliberate, Li Wei pulls you aside, his face grim. He says the monastery might send you to a labor camp, a place for criminals and vagrants. The road there is another perilous journey, and your inability to communicate will make it worse. You're starting to see the truth. In Imperial China, words are power, and silence is death. The monastery's bell tolls, signaling the end of the day's prayers. But for you, it feels like a countdown to your doom. The monastery's bell tolls, a deep, resonant sound that vibrates through your bone. You're kneeling in the courtyard, your hands still raw from kitchen work, your body weak from hunger,
and the lingering effects of your infection. Li Wei stands nearby, his face etched with worry. The monks debate over your fate, sparked by your disastrous failure to deliver a message, has reached a fever pitch. Your inability to speak Middle Chinese turned a simple task into a diplomatic incident, and now the head monk is weighing whether to send you to a labor camp or worse. You're barely holding on, and the 8th reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China is about to hit you like a thunderbolt. Religion is a sacred force, and ignorance of its customs is not just a mistake, it's blasphemy, punishable by ostracism or death. The Tang dynasty is a melting pot of faiths. Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and even Nestorian Christianity and Zoroastrianism flourish along the Silk Road. But this diversity comes with rules, rituals, and taboos that you but a modern outsider can't begin to grasp. Buddhism, dominant in the monastery, demands reverence for its symbols, spaces, and practices. One wrong move, a misplaced step, a careless word, can offend the monks and disrupt the cosmic harmony they strive to maintain. Your modern secularism, with its casual attitude toward religion, is a liability in a world where the divine is woven into every aspect of life. The head monk, his saffron robe billowing, decides to give you one last chance to prove your worth. Instead of a labor camp, you're assigned to assist in a Buddhist ritual, a ceremony to honor a visiting relic, a bone said to belong to the Buddha himself. Li Wei, still your reluctant guardian, tries to explain the gravity of the task. You must carry a ceremonial tray of offerings, incense, flowers, and rice, without error.
He drills you on the basics. Bow before the altar. Don't touch the relic. Don't speak. You nod, exhausted but desperate to avoid further trouble. Your mind is foggy, but you think you can handle it. After all, how hard can carrying a tray be? You're about to find out. The ceremony takes place in the monastery's main hall, a cavernous space filled with the scent of sandalwood and the hum of chanting. Monks sit cross-legged, their eyes closed in meditation, while villagers from nearby settlements crowd the edges, their faces reverent. You're dressed in a borrowed robe, too big and smelling of mildew, and your bare feet ache against the cold stone floor. The tray in your hands is heavy, the incense smoke stinging your eyes. You try to focus, mimicking the slow, deep, deliberate steps of the monk in front of you, but your modern instincts betray you. You're used to rushing, multitasking, cutting corners. Here, every movement is a prayer, and haste is sacrilege. You reach the altar, where the relic rests in a golden case, surrounded by candles. You're supposed to place the tray, bow, and retreat. Simple, right? But as you set the tray down, your trembling hands, weak from hunger and fatigue, knock over a candle. It falls with a soft clink, the flame snuffed out on the stone. The chanting stops, the silence is deafening. Every eye in the hall turns to you, and the head monk's face darkens. You've just desecrated a sacred moment. In your world, you'd apologize, maybe laugh it off. Here, there's no laughing. The candle's fall is an omen, a sign of disharmony, and you're the cause. Li Wei rushes forward, bowing repeatedly, his voice a frantic plea. He's trying to explain your clumsiness, but the head monk isn't listening. He gestures to two younger monks, who seize you by the arms. You try to speak, to say sorry, but your mangled Middle Chinese comes out as gibberish, sounding like defiance. The crowd murmurs, some clutching prayer beads, others whispering about demons. In the Tang dynasty, religion isn't just personal faith, it's a social contract. Offending the Buddha's relic isn't just a mistake, it's a threat to the community's spiritual well-being. You're dragged to a side chamber, where the head monk interrogates you. Li Wei translates, his voice shaking. You've insulted the Buddha, disrupted the ritual, and brought shame to the monastery. You try to explain it was an accident, but intent doesn't matter here. The Tang's religious culture demands perfection in sacred spaces, and you failed spectacularly.
The head monk mentions a punishment called expulsion from the Sangha, which means you'll be cast out, not just from the monastery, but from any Buddhist community. In a society where temples are often the only refuge for the desperate, this is a death sentence. As the monks deliberate, you're locked in a small room, its walls carved with sutra. You're shaking, not just from fear, but from the realization of how deeply you've misunderstood this world. Back home, religion might be a private choice, ignored or debated casually. Here, it's the glue of society, and you've just torn it apart. You think of for eras. In ancient Rome, you might have offended a priest but bribed your way out. In medieval Europe, a confession might have saved you. But in the Tang dynasty, Buddhism's rise has made its rituals untouchable, and your ignorance is unforgivable. Li Wei, risking his own standing, sneaks in to see. He says the monks are considering a harsher penalty, handing you over to the local magistrate for disturbing the peace. You've already seen the Tang's brutal legal system, and the thought of facing it again terrifies you. Li Wei suggests fleeing before the monks decide, but escape means another perilous journey through bandit-infested lands. You're weak, barefoot, and still can't speak the language. The monastery, once a hope, is now a trap, and religion, far from a comfort, is your latest enemy. As you wait in the dim room, the sound of chanting resumes, a reminder of the world you've disrupted. Li Wei hands you a stolen pair of straw sandals and a small sack of rice, his last act of pity. He points to a back gate, unguarded at night. You know what he's offering, a chance to run, to face the wilderness rather than the monk's wrath. But the road is a death trap, and your blunders have only grown worse. In Imperial China, religion isn't just faith, it's a code, and breaking it marks you as an outcast in a world where outcasts don't survive.
The night is thick with the scent of pine and fear as you slip through the monastery's back gate. The straw sandals Li Wei gave you chafing your battered feet. The small sack of rice slung over your shoulder is your only lifeline. A meager gift from a man who's risked everything to help you escape the monk's wrath. Your blunder with the Buddhist ritual, knocking over a candle during a sacred ceremony, has marked you as a blasphemer, and the threat of being handed to a magistrate looms large. You're running again, back to the perilous roads of the Tang dynasty, with no clear destination and a body pushed to its limits. Now, as you stumble into the wilderness, you're about to face the 9th reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China, the brutal demands of manual labor, which your soft, modern body and lack of practical skills cannot endure. In the Tang dynasty, survival is tied to work, hard, physical work that defines the lives of peasants, artisans, and laborers. Rice farming, canal digging, and hauling goods are the backbone of the empire, but they require strength, skill, and stamina you've never needed. Your modern life typing at a desk, swiping on a phone, maybe the occasional jog has left you unprepared for a world where labor is life. The monastery's kitchen was a taste of this, but now, cast out and desperate, you'll face the full weight of a society that values only what you can produce. You wander for hours, the forest giving way to open fields, your sandals shred against the rocky terrain, and your feet bleed anew. Hunger claws at you, but you ration the rice, knowing it's all you have. By dawn, you spot a small settlement, a cluster of mud brick huts, surrounded by rice paddies. You're too weak to keep running, so you approach, hoping for mercy. The villagers, wary of strangers after recent bandit raids, eye you with suspicion. You try to mime your need for work, pointing at the fields, but your clumsy gestures and inability to speak Middle Chinese make you a riddle they don't trust. A burly man, likely the village foreman, steps forward. He sizes you up, noting your frail frame and trembling hands. He speaks gruffly, and though you don't understand, his gesture toward the paddies
is clear. Work or leave. You nod, desperate for food and shelter. He hands you a wooden hoe and points to a muddy field. The task is simple: break up the soil for planting. But it's back-breaking for someone like you. The other laborers, their muscles honed by years of toil, move with ease, their hoes slicing through the earth like knives through silk. You swing yours awkwardly, the handle slipping in your blistered hands. Within minutes, your arms ache and sweat stings your eyes. The sun climbs, and the heat is relentless. Your modern body, used to air-conditioned offices, wilts under the strain. The hoe feels like it weighs a ton, and each swing sends pain shooting through your shoulders. The foreman barks at you, his tone sharp. You're too slow, too weak, and your sloppy work is ruining the field. You try to keep up, but your vision blurs, and you stumble, nearly falling into the mud. The other laborers laugh, their calloused hands and weathered faces, a stark contrast to your softness. In the Tang dynasty, labor is a currency of survival, and you're bankrupt. At midday, the workers break for a meal, boiled millet and a few pickled radishes. You're given a half portion, the foreman's way of saying you haven't earned more. You devour it, the coarse grains scraping your throat, but it's not enough to quell the hunger that's become your constant companion. You think of your old life: takeout, vending machines, endless snacks, and realize how spoiled you were. Here, food is tied to output, and your output is pathetic. The foreman watches you, his expression a mix of pity and contempt. You're a liability, slowing the group and wasting resources. The afternoon brings a new task: hauling water from a nearby stream to irrigate the fields. You're handed 2 wooden buckets yoked across your shoulders. The weight is crushing, and the yoke digs into your bruised skin. You stagger to the stream, fill the buckets, and try to carry them back without spilling. The other laborers, some younger than you, balance their loads with ease, their steps you, on the other hand, slosh water everywhere, earning another shout from the foreman. Your back screams, and your legs tremble. You've never felt so useless.
By evening, you're a wreck, blisters bleeding, muscles screaming, head pounding from dehydration. The foreman pulls you aside, his words harsh, but clear. Even without translation, you're not cut out for this. He gestures for you to leave, offering a single millet cake as payment for your pathetic efforts. You want to argue, to beg, but your lack of language and strength leaves you silent. The villagers turn away, their focus back on the fields. You're not one of them, and you never will be. As you limp out of the village, the millet cake clutched in your hand, you reflect on other eras. In ancient Rome, you might have found work as a scribe or servant, leveraging basic skills. In medieval Europe, monasteries sometimes took in the weak, training them slowly. But in the Tang dynasty, where labor is immediate and unforgiving, peasants are born into their roles, their bodies shaped by years of toil. You, with your soft hands and untested endurance, are a relic of a softer world, unfit for the fields that feed the empire. Night falls, and you're alone again, the rice sack nearly empty. The road ahead is dark, and you're too weak to go far. You collapse under a tree, the millet cake your only comfort. But even as you eat, you hear footsteps: bandits, wolves, or worse. You're too exhausted to run. The Tang dynasty's labor has broken you, exposing your fragility in a world where strength is survival. Somewhere in the distance, a drum beats, signaling a village curfew. You're outside its protection, a stranger in a land that demands more than you can give. The night air is cold, biting at your exposed skin. As you huddle under the tree, the millet cake long gone, your body is a wreck, feet bloodied, hands blistered, muscles screaming from the failed attempt at farm labor. The footsteps you heard were just a passing traveler, but the scare left you trembling, a reminder of how vulnerable you are. You're alone now, Wei Wei having abandoned you after the village cast you out.
his patience finally exhausted by your endless blunders. You're a modern soul lost in the Tang dynasty, and every step through disease, hunger, law, travel, language, religion, and labor has driven home your fragility. Now, as you stumble toward an unknown fate, you're about to face the 10th reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China, the deadly game of political intrigue, where your ignorance makes you a pawn in a world of scheming nobles and ruthless ambition. The Tang dynasty's court in Chang'an is a glittering hub of power, but it's also a nest of vipers. Emperors, officials, and concubines play a high-stakes game of alliances and betrayals, where a single word can elevate or destroy. You, a nobody with no connections, are about to be swept into this world by accident, your strange appearance and bumbling ways making you a target for manipulation. In your modern life, politics might mean a heated online debate or a workplace power struggle. Here, it's a matter of life and death, and you're woefully unprepared. Morning breaks, and you force yourself to move, driven by the faint hope of finding food or shelter. The road leads you to a bustling town, smaller than Chang'an but alive with merchants and ox carts. Your tattered robe and gaunt face draw stares, but you're too desperate to care. You approach a market stall, hoping to beg for scraps, when a richly dressed man in silk robes notices you. His eyes, sharp and calculating, linger on your foreign appearance, pale skin, odd features, the remnants of your sneakers now reduced to rags. He speaks in rapid Middle Chinese, and though you catch nothing, his gesture to follow is clear. You hesitate, but hunger overrides fear, and you trail him to a grand house with red lacquered gates. The man, who introduces himself as Lord Chen through a reluctant translator, a nervous servant named Bao, claims to be a minor official. He's intrigued by you, not out of kindness but curiosity. Your strange looks and inability to speak properly make you an oddity, and in the Tang court, oddities can be useful. Lord Chen offers you food, a bowl of rice and dried fish, a feast by your current standards, and a deal serve as his envoy to deliver a message to a rival official in Chang'an. You sense a trap, but the promise of food and a chance to return to the city is too tempting. You nod, ignoring the warning in Bao's eye. The journey back to Chang'an is grueling, but Lord Chen provides a donkey and a guide, a silent man with a scar across his cheek.
You are dressed in a slightly better robe, though still ill-fitting, and given a sealed bamboo scroll to deliver. The Fistram Bria whispers that Lord Chen is playing a dangerous game, using you to provoke his rival, Lord Wei. You don't understand the details, but you grasp the stakes. You're a pawn in a political chess match, chosen because you're expendable. In the Tang dynasty, the court is a web of factions, nobles, eunuchs, and military men, vying for the emperor's favor. A foreigner like you, with no clan or loyalty, is a perfect tool for deniable schemes. Chang'an's gates loom as you arrive, your heart sinking at the memory of your earlier imprisonment here. The city is as vibrant as ever, with silk-clad nobles and street vendors shouting over the din of carts. Your guide leads you to Lord Wei's mansion, a sprawling compound guarded by men with spears. You present the scroll, burn, bowing awkwardly as you've learned, but the moment Lord Wei reads it, his face darkens. He barks questions at you, his voice sharp with suspicion. You try to explain you're just a messenger, but your mangled Middle Chinese and foreign appearance make you a lightning rod for his anger. The scroll, it turns out, is an insult disguised as diplomacy, accusing Lord Wei of disloyalty, a grave charge in a court where treason means death. Before you can react, guards seize you, their grips bruising. You're dragged to a holding room, the scroll confiscated. Lord Wei, a tall man with a cold stare, interrogates you through a translator. He thinks you're a spy, sent by Lord Chen to undermine him. You try to protest, but your words are useless, and your ignorance of court protocol failing to kowtow properly. Speaking out of turn only deepens his distrust. In the Tang dynasty, politics is a dance of subtlety, where every gesture and phrase is calculated. You're blunt,
Modern honesty is a sledgehammer, smashing any chance of survival. Lord Wei decides you're too dangerous to release but too insignificant to kill yet. He sends you to a guarded annex, where you're questioned daily. The translator, a nervous scholar, reveals that Lord Chen's message was a calculated move to provoke Lord Wei into overreacting, potentially embarrassing him before the Emperor. You're caught in the middle, a disposable piece in their game. You think of modern politics scandals and tweets, but here, the stakes are bloodier. A misstep in the Tang court can lead to exile, execution, or the destruction of entire families. You have no family, no allies, just a growing sense of doom. Days pass, and you're fed just enough to keep you alive: rice gruel and stale vegetables. The guards mock your appearance, calling you barbarian and ghost. You try to appeal to the translator, begging him to explain your innocence, but he's too scared to help. You reflect on other eras. In ancient Rome, you might have found a patron to plead your case. In medieval Europe, a bribe or a priest could have saved you. But the Tang court is a closed world, its intrigues impenetrable to an outsider. Your foreignness, once a curiosity, is now a liability, marking you as a potential traitor. One night, Lord Chen's servant, sneaks in. He's risking his life, but he feels guilty for your plight. He whispers that Lord Wei plans to use you as evidence in a petition to the Emperor, accusing Lord Chen of treason. If it succeeds, you'll be executed as a co-conspirator. Bao offers to help you escape, but it means fleeing Chang'an again, back to the deadly roads. You're weak, scared, and out of options. The court's intrigues have ensnared you, and in Imperial China, politics isn't just power, it's a death trap for the ignorant. The air in Chang'an's guarded annex is thick with the smell of damp wood and your own unwashed body. You're a prisoner again, caught in the crossfire of Lord Chen and Lord Wei's political feud, your foreignness making you a convenient scapegoat. Nervous servant who helped you before, has offered a way out, a risky escape through the city's back alleys. Your body is a wreck, feet scarred, hands blistered, strength sapped by hunger and exhaustion. Yet, the fear of execution as a supposed traitor pushes you to follow Bao into the night, slipping past guards and into the labyrinth of Chang'an's streets. You're free, but not safe. Now, you're about to face the 11th reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China. Your modern ideas, so natural to you, are seen as witchcraft or heresy, and trying to share them could seal your doom.
In the Tang dynasty, innovation exists. Gunpowder is in its infancy, and the wood block press is revolutionizing texts. But change is slow, controlled by scholars, and steeped in tradition. Your 21st century knowledge, basic hygiene, simple machines, or even germ theory, is centuries ahead, but introducing it in a society bound by superstition and hierarchy is like lighting a match in a powder keg. You're about to learn that your clever ideas, far from saving you, make you a target for accusations of sorcery. The wall leads you to a hidden courtyard, where a group of outcasts, beggars, deserters, and petty thieves huddle around a small fire. They're a rough bunch, but they tolerate you because Ba vouches for you. You're given a scrap of cloth to wrap your feet, and a bowl of watery millet porridge, which you gulp down despite its grit. The group's leader, a grizzled man named Deng, eyes you warily. He's heard of your strange appearance and botched attempts at survival, and he's curious. You see a chance to win their trust, maybe secure a place among them. In your desperation, you decide to share a piece of modern knowledge, something simple, something useful. It's a mistake. You notice the group's water source, a stagnant bucket teeming with flies. Your recent brush with infection makes you shudder, and you remember basic hygiene. Boiling water kills germs. You try to explain this to Bao, using gestures and the few Middle Chinese words you've picked up. He's skeptical but translates to Deng, who frowns. You mine boiling water over the fire, pointing to the bucket and shaking your head. The group watches, intrigued but uneasy. In your world, this is common sense. In theirs, it's bizarre. Why tamper with water? A gift from the heavens, you insist, and Deng reluctantly agrees to let you try. You set the bucket over the fire, the water bubbling as you stir it with a stick. The group gathers, murmuring. When the water cools, you drink some to prove it's safe, hoping to win them over. But instead of gratitude, you see fear. One man backs away, muttering about fire spirits. Another accuses you of poisoning the water, claiming the steam is a bad omen. Bao tries to calm them, but your actions have stirred suspicion. In the Tang dynasty, unexplained phenomena are often attributed to magic or divine wrath, and you, a foreigner with strange habits, are an easy target for blame. Deng demands an explanation, and you try to describe germs, tiny, invisible creatures that cause sickness. Bao's translation falters. The concept doesn't exist in their worldview. To them, illness comes from imbalanced qi or angry spirits, not microscopic organisms. Your words, filtered through Bao's shaky Middle Chinese, sound like the ravings of a sorcerer. The group's mood shifts from curiosity to hostility. Someone throws a stone, grazing your shoulder. You're stunned. Your attempt to help has backfired spectacularly. Deng orders you restrained, your wrists bound with rope. The group debates what to do. Some want to turn you over to the local magistrate, claiming you're a witch. Others fear your magic might curse them if they act rashly. You try to backtrack, saying it was just a suggestion, but your broken language and frantic gestures only deepen their distrust. Bao, caught between loyalty and fear, pleads for you, but his voice is drowned out by the crowd's shouts. You're starting to see the pattern. Every attempt to use your modern knowledge, whether it's hygiene or basic mechanics, marks you as unnatural, a threat to the Tang's carefully balanced order. The group decides to drag you to a nearby temple, seeking a Taoist priest to exercise your strange influence. The temple is a small, incense-filled building, its walls painted with dragons and immortals. The priest, an elderly man with a flowing beard, listens to Deng's accusations. He studies you, noting your pale skin and ragged clothes. You try to explain, but your words are gibberish, and the priest's eyes narrow. He performs a ritual, waving a peachwood sword and chanting, as if you're possessed. You're forced to kneel, your head bowed, as the crowd watches. In your world, you'd laugh off such superstition. Here, it's deadly serious. The priest declares you a disruptor of harmony. A vague but damning charge. He recommends handing you to the authorities for a trial, likely for sorcery, a crime punishable by exile or execution. You think of other eras. In ancient Rome, your ideas might have been dismissed as odd but not demonic. In medieval Europe, you could have been burned as a heretic, but at least you'd have understood the accusations. In the Tang dynasty, your modern knowledge is a foreign magic, incomprehensible and terrifying to a society that reveres tradition over innovation. Now, risking everything, cuts your ropes in the chaos of the ritual's end. He pulls you toward the temple's back exit, whispering that you must run before the priest summons guards. You're weak, scared, and out of ideas. Your attempt to share a simple truth, boiling water saves lives, has branded you a sorcerer, a fate you never imagined. The streets of Chang'an beckon, but they're no safer than the roads you fled. As you stumble into the night, the temple's gong echoes, a warning that your time is running out. In Imperial China, knowledge isn't power, it's a curse, and you're carrying it like a mark of death. The streets of Chang'an are a blur of shadows as you flee the Taoist temple, the priest's gong echoing behind you like a death knell. Bao, your only ally, runs beside you, his breath ragged. Your body is a ruined, feet bleeding, hands scarred, strength sapped by hunger, disease,
and labor. The accusation of sorcery, sparked by your attempt to introduce the concept of boiling water, has branded you a pariah, hunted by both temple and state. You've survived culture shock, etiquette blunders, infections, starvation, brutal laws, perilous travel, language barriers, religious taboos, ruling work, and political intrigues, but each has chipped away at your will. Now, as you stumble through the city's alleys, you face the 12th and final reason you wouldn't last a day in Imperial China. The cumulative weight of this world's challenges is a crucible that burns away outsiders, and you, a modern soul, are no match for its fire. The and more comes into focus as you compare this era's unforgiving nature to others, and a strange encounter offers a glimmer of escape at a cost. The Tang dynasty is a marvel of art, trade, and poetry, but it's a fortress for those within its rigid order. Every step you've taken, every misspoken word, every clumsy gesture has marked you as an anomaly, a threat to the harmony that defines this society. Unlike ancient Rome, where a clever outsider might charm their way into favor, or medieval Europe, where faith could open doors, the Tang dynasty demands conformity in every facet of life. You failed at every turn. Your casual demeanor offended nobles. Your unvaccinated body succumbed to infection. Your hunger exposed your uselessness. The law crushed your pleas. The roads tested your fragility. Language isolated you. Religion branded you a heretic. Labor broke you. Politics ensnared you. And your modern ideas were seen as witchcraft. Together, these form a gauntlet no outsider can survive. Tether.
Bao leads you to a darkened stable, where you collapse among the straw, your breath shallow. He's risking his life to hide you, but he's scared his eyes dart to the door, thus expecting guards at any moment. You're a fugitive now, wanted for sorcery and treason, crimes that carry the death penalty. The Tang's justice is swift, beheading for nobles, lynching, death by 1,000 cuts for the worst offenders. You're not sure which is worse, but you know you're out of time. Bao whispers that you must leave Chang'an before dawn, but your body is failing, and the city's gates are watched. You're trapped, a mouse in a maze, with no exit. As you huddle in the stable, a figure emerges from the shadows, a woman, cloaked in black, her face half hidden by a veil. Yuri speaks in perfect English, a shock that jolts you upright. You don't belong here, she says, her voice calm, but edged with urgency. She calls herself May, a wanderer between worlds, and claims to know your origin, your modern life, your sudden arrival in this era. You're too stunned to question her, clinging to the sound of a language you understand. She offers you a way back to your time, a shimmering jade amulet in her hand that pulses with an unnatural light. But there's a catch to return. You must surrender something precious, a memory, a piece of your soul. She doesn't say what. The choice is yours, but you must decide now, before the guards find you. You hesitate, your mind racing. May's presence is a mystery, but her offer is your only hope. You reflect on why the Tang dynasty has been so brutal. In ancient Rome, you might have learned Latin and found a niche. In medieval Europe, monasteries offered refuge despite their flaws. Even the Mongol Empire, with its nomadic chaos, valued outsiders who could contribute. But the Tang's obsession with order, Confucian hierarchy, Buddhist ritual, imperial law, leaves no room for someone like you. Its beauty is matched by its ruthlessness, a paradox that has crushed you at every turn. The and more is clear. No other era combines such sophistication with such intolerance for those who don't fit. You think of your journey waking in a rice paddy, mocked for your clothes, flogged for etiquette failures, nearly killed by infection, starved in villages, condemned by law, battered by roads, silenced by language.
shunned by religion, broken by labor, ensnared by politics, and hunted for your ideas. Each challenge was a lesson in your fragility, a reminder that this world wasn't built for you. The amulet glows brighter, and May's eyes urge you to choose. Stay, and face certain death guards are closing in, their torches visible through the stable's cracks. Leave, and lose something undefined, a price you can't fully grasp. You reach for the amulet, your hand trembling. The Tang dynasty has taught you one final truth. Survival here requires more than resilience. It requires belonging, and you never will. Your fingers touch the jade, a warmth spreads through you, and the stable fades. May's voice lingers, warning that the price will reveal itself in time. You wake in your modern bed, the familiar hum of electricity replacing the Tang's distant drums. But something feels off, a gap in your memory, a hollow where something vital used to be. You've escaped, but at what cost? The Tang dynasty's lessons linger. You check your phone, order food, step into a hot shower, grateful for a world that doesn't demand your death for a misstep. Yet, you can't shake the feeling that part of you remains in Chang'an, lost to the amulet's price. The and more is a haunting realization. No era, not Rome, not Europe, not any other, matches the Tang's unique blend of beauty and brutality. You survived, but you didn't last a day, not truly. And somewhere, in a stable in 750 CE, the echo of your failure still rings.